Okay. Our world is centered around groups. These groups could be anything from large groups that control our country's government to small groups that help coordinate projects in your community. It doesn't matter which one we choose to think about because all groups have a lasting effect on a big or small group of people. The example that I would like to discuss today is my high school's school board. Each community school board is valued to make important decisions because they are held accountable to be disciplined and focused to improve student and family life. There are many examples as to what our school board entails, and that is what I plan on discussing. First, I will discuss the projects that a school board must oversee to approve before they are performed. I will then move on to discuss the main policies and finances that must be discussed among school board members. And lastly, I will discuss how these things lead to a more successful and established school program. There has been a time in life where everyone wished that things were done a little bit differently, but sometimes these things are not met. The school board is known as a small group that wants to make things run smoothly, and they will always do the best of their ability to make sure that people's needs are met. I will first begin talking about the projects that the school board overlooks to improve the school. Schools are always trying to improve the equipment they use to improve the buildings that they work in, such as redoing the tracked surface and turf, or using new technology which will help improve the performances of students with new learning abilities. I personally have experienced that one when I was a sophomore in high school. We implemented iPads in our school as a new learning tool for us to use. And lastly, a new gymnasium for student athletic activities. Bertrand Community School, my high school, actually took on this project in 2007. Pre-engineered slab that was used to decide how the capacity would work, and we ended up using a complex that fitted about 500 people. The CDIG Innovative Design of Architecture stated that the project incorporated 19,200 square feet additions, which included the gym, the locker rooms, the restroom, and more. The project costed an overall amount of $2,170,000 as stated by the CDIG in 2014. But in the long run, all of this must be overseen by the school board so they can agree that they are making the right decisions for the gymnasium. Without the school board deciding what funds to use and how to use them to raise money for this project, the project probably would not be done. So with these responsibilities, they must be aware of all the events taking place in the schools so they know how to plan accordingly. My second main point is how policies and finances are overseen by the school board. Paul Schmidt in 2018 stated that finances could be the biggest challenge when facing schools, and that is a prime example of the gymnasium that we built. It took a lot amount of money, so it took quite a long time for them to decide when to build and how much funds they have to use it. Any local government or agency uses budgets to describe the program plans for the upcoming year. So these budgets could have been used with the gymnasium. It provides the school districts and their leaders, such as the school board, with the opportunity to justify the collection and expenditure of public funds. So it is said that the school board is valued for their leadership role in maintaining and overlooking these budgets. They may also look towards future projects by starting a small side fund. So right now, as I looked in our school board meeting, they are looking to renovate our shop for new welding and construction classes. So right now they are looking as to what they should do to start a small fund to begin raising money for that project. It's going to take a long amount of time, but they think that starting now will lead to greater expenses and more money for the future. It is also important that the school board must oversee changes and corrections in school policies. For example, one that was talked about included making the decision as to who is chosen as chaperones for school field trips, to be sure that the students are in the best hands, and that was stated by the superintendent, Dr. Shipp. Lastly, I want to discuss how the school board leads to a more successful and established school program. Overall, the school board is known to organize and distribute needs to everyone. This can come from a personal or social relationships that, like we discussed earlier in class. Personal relationships are used for a level with people that know how they feel and what they believe will help better the school board decisions and what projects should be taken on. For example, some students may have a father or a relative who is on the school board. So if the students have any concerns or things that should be changed, then they could discuss this with their father, and that could be later brought up at a school board meeting as a discussion, is just something that they could think about. This could be compared to social relationships, which take on the role of the school board members being mutual friends with people in an area, but they do not talk and they are not as at a personal level. So they might come up with good ideas for the school, but they may not have that close bond with the school board members, so they cannot discuss and come up with those ideas. So there has been conflict before on what should be done, and people believe that other things should be done to improve the school. But in conclusion, groups are known to take on big roles for numbers of reasons. Sometimes humans do not see that the work that they are putting into to make people happier and to make communities better. But in the end, they are valued greatly for the decisions that they make for individual school districts. Today we discussed 3 main things that come into play when talking about the school board. First, I discussed the projects that the school board must oversee and approve before they are performed. I then moved on to discuss the main policies and finances that will be discussed among the board members. And lastly, I discussed how these things always are able to make I discussed how these things lead to a more successful and a more established school program. The school board won't always be able to make everyone happy, but they do their very best to keep the school district in good condition with good improvements. So no matter if the group is large or small, individuals should always be thankful for the work that these groups do and what they do to make our communities better.